Incredible. 10 agents, 10 reportedly fired in the aftermath of this discovery. More very soon could be shown the door very shortly. Wiles, now not Attorney General, Wiles, who is now the White House Chief of Staff, said, "I'm in shock. Can't blame you, Susie. The story now gets worse." Yep. Turns out they didn't just get their phone records. They reportedly listened in on her calls, including one when she was talking to a lawyer. Her lawyer. Not just the FBI subpoena Cash and Susie's phone records. They surreptitiously recorded all phone calls between Wiles and her lawyer, and the lawyer knew the FBI recorded the conversation and did not tell Wiles. This is insane. Here's a Reuters story, just a quick line, very eye-opening. Reuters couldn't independently establish what records the FBI obtained or who approved the subpoenas. The agency also couldn't ascertain if Patel or Wiles themselves were under investigation, and if so, why? Both very close to Trump during that period. He built towards and ultimately launched his campaign to reclaim the presidency, of course, in 2024. This is again Reuters. Both Patel and Wiles were known to have been interviewed by the investigators as part of Smith's investigation into Trump's retention of classified documents following his first term. In 2023, the FBI recorded a phone call between Wiles and her attorney, according to two FBI officials. Wiles' attorney was aware the call was being recorded and consented to it, but Susie Wiles had no idea. According to Axios, Trump White House reporter Mark Caputo, that lawyer who Reuters knew about, was the spying, knew about the spying rather, apparently vigorously denies it. Caputo wouldn't reveal the attorney's name because they think they're being unfairly accused. Here's what the lawyer told me. If I ever pulled a stunt like that, I wouldn't and shouldn't have a license to practice law. I'm as shocked as Susie. What a mess of a story, folks. Draconian overreach, zero accountability, top Biden Justice Department. Look, whenever the left talks about Trump, it's always fascism, fascism, fascism. Suddenly they're going to find themselves a bit tongue-tied when these kind of oppressive tactics turn up. But yeah, watch how they have very little, if anything, to say. We're going to wait for the facts to get sorted out. Even though it's been a couple of days, this is still a developing story. But already very clear to everybody that the Biden administration ran roughshod over the concept of ethical behavior in this insane quest to bring Trump down. Insane. Danny says, let me guess, no arrests. Do they know how they found this out, or if they have access to the recorded calls? What's the next move? All valid questions, none of which have been asked. There's been no extra press conference since then from Kash Patel. He just came out a couple days ago and told us about this. So like I said, it's by all means a developing story, but just on the surface, absolutely incredible, and more evidence of the kind of insanity that was going on in this Biden administration. What a nightmare. Holy cow. Ilhan Omar, our favorite moron. Oh, she's big furious. She's big mad. And she's demanding a probe. Why? Well, because her radical State of the Union guest has been arrested. She might look fairly familiar to you. Ilhan Omar is demanding a full investigation after Capitol Police arrested her guest during President Trump's State of the Union address Tuesday night. The woman they hauled out, well, you likely know her. Congresswoman invited 43-year-old Minneapolis activist Aliyah Rahman to the same far-left agitator. This is the woman who went viral in January. I don't know if you remember or not. ICE agents dragged her out of her car during immigration enforcement operations in her home state. And Omar invited this troublemaker to be in the gallery as her guest. And wouldn't you know it, somebody as attention-seeking, willing to intentionally get arrested to interfere in law enforcement actions like this Rahman moron, seated next to a lawmaker of an equal mindset, went and got herself arrested. Well, ain't that something? Omar, self-styled tough Muslima, as she says, big mad over the whole affair. Here's her words from Omar. My guest, Aliyah Rahman, stood up silently in the gallery during the president's speech for a short period of time, part of which other guests were also standing. For that, she was forcibly removed despite warning officers about her injured shoulders and ultimately charged with unlawful conduct. She goes on, the heavy-handed response to a peaceful guest sends a chilling message about the state of our democracy. I'm calling for a full explanation of why this arrest occurred. Well, fortunately for old Ms. Omar, Capitol Police put out a statement to the New York Times, could offer the explanation she's so desperately seeking for. Here's the statement. All State of the Union tickets clearly state and explain that demonstrating is prohibited, and the guest was told to sit down, but refused to obey our lawful orders. Tough night for Omar and those around her. Other than the screaming tactics we talked at length about after Trump got into her head, as he often does. Now she got to deal with the embarrassment of seeing her guest hauled out of the State of the Union address. Better luck next time, ladies. Now, that said, Omar clearly set up Rahman. Willingly obliged, of course. After all, the woman has a documented history of disobeying lawful orders. It's what she does, using her injuries as an excuse as to why she shouldn't be arrested. Omar's hand-picked activist attempted to block ICE vehicles back in January, directed to move several times, refused, got absolutely yoked out of her car for her troubles. You remember this? Let me play this cut here for you.
Take the fucking flag! Back the fuck up! Sidewalk, 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 sidewalk. You can fill up on the sidewalk. Force is not law! Force is not law! You are not following the law! Oh my God! Drive away!
Unfreaking believable, this woman. Omar's pride and joy. Only after they pulled her out of the vehicle, claimed she couldn't move because she was paralyzed with fear because of her disability. Okay, so you have a disability. You're traumatized by the police, and yet somehow you find yourself getting arrested 3 times. One of the streets you could have avoided, another at a presidential speech you could have declined the invitation to. You chose to be there. Not like other unhinged leftists didn't boycott the speech. Robin and her staged protest to get intentionally dragged out of the State of the Union address ran over, of course, to Democracy Now! This was her explanation. I stood up at the moment that I heard this man say some of the most racist things I've heard come out of any leader's mouth about the people of my city, and continue to trash talk my state of Minnesota and glorify DHS, the people who did this to me and who are being allowed to roam free on the streets, she whined. I may be being just a little too cynical, but there have been no publicly provided independent proof that Robin is, in fact, disabled. She is because she says she is. Everything goes back to her own self-reported claims, which are often then echoed by Omar, media outlets. Even so, no disability-related carve-outs, they don't exist that allow some individuals to, you can just ignore law enforcement because I'm disabled. Sorry, that doesn't work that way. Seems like she got the FAFO treatment yet again. The find out part, actually the end goal, apparently. She wants to get arrested because, in her mind, it gives her street cred with these radical, anti-American Looney Tunes like Ilhan Omar. Well, she's getting plenty of it, whether she likes it or not. Good and hard, as they say. Absolute idiot. Speaking of fools, let's center in on Manhattan, where their prosecutors in what is called the NYPD snowballer case, well, they made a move that should surprise absolutely no one. We told you about how the NYPD shared Thursday morning they'd made an arrest stemming from Monday's snowballing incident. You remember that? Police officers reportedly hit by snowballs, some of them the size of boulders. They were called out to Washington Square Park to look into allegations of unruly behavior among some of those gathered for the pre-planned post-blizzard event. 27-year-old Guzmain Coulibaly taken into custody. Not surprisingly, the NYPD noted in their announcement that he had a recent prior arrest. Less than 3 weeks ago, attempted robbery in the transit system. Take a look at this shot. There's the guy. Look at the size of the snow. This is not a simple little kids ain't this fun snowball fight, folks. He's been the only one arrested of those released on Tuesday, Wednesday, the photographs. He is the only one so far that's been picked up. Here's the actual, here's the photo. There you go. There's the 4 people. That moron is the only one they've actually placed an arrest on. The video of what took place prompted Mayor Mamdani, a defund the police proponent, I should add, to predictably try and minimize the event. Said it's just kids having a snowball fight. He made those comments Tuesday when people first asked him about it, and then on Wednesday doubled down. But multiple videos have shown there is a whole lot more than that. Take a look at this.
It's gonna be inside the playroom. Yeah, come on. I ain't do nothing. Come on. Don't touch me. I'll smack the shit out. Back out. Watch out, please.
You see the size of that one? This is not a bunch of cute little kids having a snowball fight, folks. This is a lot more than that. NYPD, New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said what took place Monday, she called it disgraceful criminal acts. Under investigation, later confirmed he'd been arrested, charged with assault. Manhattan prosecutors will not be pursuing the assault charges. Just like you said, Denny, let me guess, no arrests. Manhattan prosecutors declined to pursue an assault charge against Guzmain Coulibaly on Thursday night, instead of charging him with misdemeanor obstructing government administration and a harassment violation. 27 years old, he was arraigned in Manhattan criminal court Thursday evening, released on supervised release. It's okay. Go ahead. Go back. Do it again. Prosecutors in court said after they reviewed the evidence, they were not able to prove an officer suffered a physical injury directly by Coulibaly's conduct and therefore didn't pursue the assault charge. Considering the way Mamdani downplayed the whole incident Monday, and now this, I'm guessing those in the Big Apple are a bit fed up with the soft-on-crime policies. Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Happy to see Coulibaly going to be hit with lighter charges. It'll be interesting to see if they review the various videos, angles of the incident, gets any kind of clear, convincing assaults among the other suspects. Sorry, folks, That ain't a simple snowball fight. That's an assault. Not according to the New York DA. Idiots. Absolute morons. Well, the answer is no. A federal judge has slapped down Preservation Group's bid to stop the White House Ballroom Project. Ooh, yeah. It's going on whether you like it or not. Before we get to that, though, let's get to this. Oh, yeah. That's Blackout coffee. Oh, man. This is simply the best stuff on the planet. If you're like me, you want a coffee that is strong, bold, unapologetic, none of that weak, watered-down stuff from the big corporate chains, chemical coffee. I'm talking about Blackout coffee, the real deal for patriots who believe in hard work, freedom, starting off your day with a kick that actually means something. It's roasted fresh in small batches right here in America. Blackout delivers a rich, smooth, powerful flavor that hits you right where you need it. No bitterness, never ever bitter, just pure energy, sunrise to sunset, whether you're grinding through the day, hitting the range, refusing to back down. This is the coffee that stands with you. And get this, they are veteran-founded, family-owned, and they give back. Every single bag you buy helps fuel American values, even sends coffee to our troops overseas through their Operation Blackout program. Head to Blackout Coffee at the link in our show notes. Use the code J20 for 20% off your first order. You can subscribe, get a coffee subscription, and you actually wind up saving even more. See this? Build your own coffee subscription. Great deal, by the way. Fuel for the fearless. Strong, bold American coffee at Blackout Coffee. There are always great specials going on over there. Thank you, Blackout, for being part of the show. We appreciate you being here. Do give them a try. Try a single bag. Pick your favorite roast, fresh beans, or ground. Get delivered to your door. Give it a shot. You will be back for more, I promise you. Blackout Coffee, use that link down there in our shoe notes. All right, well, the ballroom dancing isn't quite ready to kick off yet at the White House, but Trump celebrating a decision by U.S. District Judge Richard Leon that denied an attempt by the National Trust for Historic Preservation to stop the construction on the president's $400 million proposed addition. Leon wrote, however, the matter could very well be revisited. He ruled that the National Trust for Historic Preservation this is his decision, unlikely to prevail on its request for a temporary halt to President Donald Trump's construction plan. He said the group may have a stronger case if it amends its lawsuit. Unfortunately, quoting here, because both sides initially focused on the president's constitutional authority to destruct and construct the East Wing of the White House, the plaintiff didn't bring the necessary cause of action to test the statutory authority the president has and claims as the basis to do this construction without Congress's blessing and with private funds. Now, Trump got very fired up about this. He said, "Great news for America and our wonderful White House." As we know, Trump likes to think big, and he says it will be the most beautiful hall on the globe. Unbelievable. Naturally, the left going to have to go nuts over this decision. Well, because it was Trump's idea, so, they're going to go crazy about it. National Trust, which is a privately funded nonprofit group, Congress created this group back in 1949. They've got some big hurt feelings. Someone, meaning someone who is not a Democrat, would dare to update the White House, God forbid, which was finished in 1800 and then torched. Remember that? Well, I don't mean you actually were there, but torched in 1814 by the British during the War of 1812, refurbished in 1817, undergone a ton of renovations since then. The National Trust sued to pause the project until it undergoes independent design reviews and gets congressional approval. The White House unveiled these plans this past summer. By late October, Trump had raised the East Wing to make room for a venue he said would hold 999 people. You couldn't make it just one more for an even 1,000? Come on, Donnie. Temporary victory, though. Going to be a lot more lawfare ahead. I can promise you that. It will happen. These days, being on the left means trying to stamp out all the nice things, all the fun, all the winning. And sure as hell, they'll be back in court trying to do it before too long. Guarantee. Because that's what they do. Insane, these people. All right. What else we got going on here? Oh, yeah. The real rate. We've talked about this a lot, and we're going to keep on talking about it. The real rate of transgender violence is worse than the media wants to admit. If we want serious solutions to mass public violence, we first got to confront the facts honestly. We got to debate them openly. We need to talk about the why. We're always told again and again that transgender identifying individuals are not prone to committing gun violence. Major outlets like the New York Times, the AP, CNN, the Washington Post, they're constantly publishing these articles that argue that transgender attacks are extremely rare. They run the headlines calling out conservative bias. Quote, the right exploits Nashville shooting to escalate anti-trans rhetoric. Conservative use Minneapolis shooting as anti-transgender campaigns. Now, in the wake of this attack in Canada, and actually Pawtucket, Rhode Island also, past couple of weeks, public debate once again focusing on transgender murderers, which is simply what they are. But AP, CNN, ABC, NBC, MS Now, New York Times never mention the Rhode Island shooter identifying as transgender. AP never mentioned the Canadian mass murderer was transgender. Other transgender identifying people recently also posed very serious threats, even though they never got a chance to fire off a shot, thank God. Nicholas Rosk now identifies as transgender, attempted to murder Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, took concrete steps towards carrying out that attack before the authorities got to him and stopped him. The media continue to make basic statistical mistakes in claiming transgender identifying people are not disproportionately violent. These shooters commit mass public shootings and active shootings at rates far above their share of the population. 2024, for example, transgender identifying individuals accounted for a share of active shooter attacks that was at least 12 times larger than the rest of the population. Outlets ranging from PolitiFact to AP made a huge error when they report only the transgender share of attacks without adjusting for the group's very small share of the entire population. A tiny percent of the population committing a major percent of these often fatal attacks. It's not an obvious statistical mistake. If a group makes up, say, just 1% of the population, but does 10% of the attacks, no one would dismiss that kind of disparity simply because the group accounted for only 10% of the active shooting incidents. You see what I mean? They say, oh, it's only 10%. Yes, but that group of people comprises only 1% of the population. When put that way, it becomes very clear. Mass public shooters repeatedly state their intent to kill more people, of course, in order to get more attention. Gang members, robbers, by contrast, entirely different motives. Lumping together gang fights, robberies, targeted mass public shootings, analysts make attacks by transgender identifying people appear very rare. Then the reality is that they actually are. Researchers ought to be comparing transgender identifying attackers to perpetrators of similar types of attacks. Not gang fights, robberies. Very few would argue that gang turf, a war for gang turf, is the same motivation as a mass public shooting. Come on. We need some kind of accurate analysis of this mess that is going on, and you are not getting it from the corporate bleeding heart media. They're not giving it to you. Like I said, transgender people make up about 1% of the population and yet are responsible for 10% of these mass public shootings. That's where the numbers matter. All right. You ready for a new word you probably haven't heard of before? It's called looks maxing. I never heard of it myself. Apparently, it is encouraging a largely young male audience to maximize their physical attractiveness at all costs. And when I say all, I mean all. Looks maxing, they are self-obsessed to the nth degree. Consider what other ideologies aim to disassociate a person from their body to the point of physical mutilation. Unless you are chronically online, I'm afraid I'm guilty of that. You probably never heard of the Gen Z influencer Clavicular. Within a year, his fame gonna likely fade. Within 5 years, he'll seem like just a bad fever dream. But he matters now because he represents something deeper. This is a generation of young men who have abandoned any kind of traditional masculinity for self-destructive vanity. That's all they care about. Clavicular is his streaming name. Real name is Brandon Peters. Born at the tail end of 2005. What a child. Oh my God. I'm so old. He attended a famous Roman Catholic all-boys prep school in West Orange, New Jersey. 14 years old, began self-administering testosterone injections. Self-administering. Just 4 years later, wound up getting expelled from Sacred Heart University for hiding a stash of aggressive testosterone in his dorm room. Injections apparently left him sterile and have created a lot of other long-term health issues, like other people who've taken traditional steroids. These injections apparently, according to Clavicular, are worth the side effects because he's investing in what is known as looks maxing. Term looks like a joke. Feels like something you'd see on some sleazy Las Vegas billboard. But it is an established online group, looks maxing, encouraging their largely young male audience to maximize their physical appearance at any and all cost. Ideology spawned in the chat rooms of the 2010s, and as social media has increasingly consumed young people's lives, it has gathered a massive following. Folks, this is scary. He's on a quest, this clavicular guy, to looks max, and the testosterone is apparently just one part of that journey. He's promoted practices like facial bone smashing, process that involves hitting your... I'm not making this up. It involves hitting yourself in the face with either hammers or fists to enhance your facial features, like your jawline or your cheekbones. That's how sick these people are. This 20-year-old has also admitted to taking crystal meth to keep himself thin. One looks maxer is a gimmick, but an entire mass of these young men is an absolute cult. He has 760,000 followers on TikTok. Every one of his videos gets as many as 10 million views. On Kick, live streaming website, 178,000 followers. Streams typically go between 10 and 14 hours. He earns up to $100,000 a month on Kick. Videos encouraging people to engage in this looks maxing act. He proposes if people are willing to sacrifice for their own attractiveness, they'll become more influential and have access to more sexual partners. Like it or not, he is an influencer. He has an audience, and although a good portion of it is largely ironic, it's absurd to pretend that his messaging is not without transaction. His association with other extreme personalities like Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate, he's found himself in a position of some very big political relevance And worse, he's got enough of an influence to encourage other young people to be doing this kind of stuff to themselves. He is influencing this kind of behavior. Notoriously weighed in on the 2028 presidential campaign, he bashed J.D. Vance for his physical appearance, going so far as to call him subhuman. Instead, he would prefer to vote for Gavin Newsom, who failed any political record, and a lot less important than what his political record is how good-looking he is, how attractive he is. That's what's important to these people. Sick, sick people. A huge influencer, making a huge amount of money, and encouraging people to do, I don't want to even repeat it, to do the kind of stuff that I talked about earlier in this piece. This is sick. This is absolutely sickening. Insane. It's the world we live in today. Ain't that nice? So, hackers just stole Mexico's tax and voter rolls, and you'll never guess how. This story does not quite feature that kind of gut punch immediacy of Mexico's drug war escalating into a virtual civil war last week around Puerto Vallarta and the gang. But it is a bit of a glimpse into the future, and maybe ought to send a chill or three down your spine. According to Bloomberg, it's a paywalled story, sorry about that, but a weeks-long hacker campaign. What happened to my headphones? Where'd they go? Are we still there? All right. My headphones suddenly just died. According to the Bloomberg story, a weeks-long hacker campaign against the Mexican government culminated in January with a massive data theft, some of the federal government's most sensitive information. By the time it was over, the attacker had stolen 150 gigabytes, that's a lot, of sensitive data, including 195 million taxpayer records, voter registration files, government employee credentials, and the civil service registry data. Not a small amount of stuff. Now, if you're thinking that massive kind of a theft had to involve some giant team of hackers, years of planning involving a Stuxnet-like virus, even physical access to the Mexican government's computer systems, wrong. Think again. The almost unprecedented hack was done by one guy. Yeah, one guy. Using Anthropic's Claude AI, despite all of Anthropic's safeguards against something exactly like this happening. Summing up a report they published on Wednesday by the Israeli cybersecurity startup Gambit Security, some unknown Claude user, one guy, simply made up Spanish language prompts for the chatbot to act as an elite hacker, finding vulnerabilities in government networks, writing computer scripts to exploit those vulnerabilities, and figuring out ways to automate data theft. Apparently, just 2 days ago, the Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei called under the carpet by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth because the company refused to let the Pentagon remove Claude's guardrails for military use. Anonymous War Department officials said Anthropic knows this is not a get-to-know-you meeting, not a friendly meeting. This is a shit-or-get-off-the-pot meeting. But this, it looks like the hacker was able to essentially jailbreak Claude with prompts, finally bypassing the chatbot's guardrails. Claude originally refused the demands until eventually relenting. Wednesday, they reported nobody had to hack Claude to turn AI into a malicious hacker. They just had to get the phrasing right, and then Claude AI did the job all by itself. One guy. Unbelievable. And got a hold of all that information from Mexico. That's insane. Oh, man. We're almost done, but I needed something to put a smile on your face because it's Friday. So, at the risk of getting some sort of YouTube copyright strike because they are so freaking idiotic over there, I'm going to play it anyway because we need some fun. These are two dogs dancing to some, I don't know what the hell that is, on the television with their tails a-wagging. But watch what happens when Mom hits the off button. Hey, why'd you turn off my TV? I was watching that. Oh, man. All right. Enough of a smile. Insane. That's it, folks. Hey, thanks so much for being here all week long. We appreciate it. We are live at 9 a.m. on Rumble, Monday through Friday. You can watch the show also on our YouTube channel. Please give us a subscribe over there. And we also post it up on X. You can watch the show there too. Be sure and check out our podcasts on Spotify, Apple iTunes, all the great podcast platforms. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. And be sure and make a purchase from one of our great sponsors down there in our show notes list. Just hit the show more. You'll see all those great deals you get. And SKR Mizzy, I guess. Have a great one. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for popping by. Follow, like, share. It's all goes to helping the show get a little more viewership, which is what we need. We appreciate you being there. Enjoy your weekend. Spend it with someone you love. And I'll see you right back here come Monday.